Welcome and welcome back to Harrison Talks Pod, episode 33. We've got a jam packed episode today. We'll be diving headfirst into a small market showdown in the finals. It's a Pacers versus Thunder. And if you're tired of super teams and big market fatigue, this finals is going to feel like a breath of fresh Midwest air. Although, if you're from where I'm from, it might not be too fresh. I don't know. We'll be talking depth, MVPs, trade rumors, and some future questions about OKC's war chest of picks, plus thoughts on Knicks' next steps and whether the conference finals MVP should exist at all. Oh, and we gotta talk about the end of an era for NBA on TNT. But before we get into all of that, we got a special guest joining us today again. Nick, one part of the Best Damn W show and various other things, is here to chop it up with us. And Nick, I know you being from Florida as well, you like chopping it up, don't you?
You
Ba-na.
already know, man. You already know, man. That spirit. Shout out to the Seminoles, man. Shout out to Florida State, man. Always.
Man, I was a marching band kid when I was in high school, and in 2004 we went we saw Florida State versus West Virginia in
Mhm.
it wasn't Tampa, it was somewhere else, and I can't remember which bowl game it was. It might have been Outback Bowl. 2004, you can look it up. Florida State versus West Virginia, but my God, you guys play that chop song like 200 times. It's every play. Boom, boom,
Tradition.
boom.
Not even just during the games. It's outside of the games too. Like if you're out here, where Florida State plays, man, like it's everywhere. Like down the street, like kids are in their classrooms doing it. Like it's a big thing here. A really big thing.
Well, yeah, Nick is also a Florida State guy. You cover Florida State sports. What was it?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, is it Chop It
Just
Up?
just just men's and women's basketball, yeah, for
Mm,
Chop Chat. Shout out to
Top
chopchat.com. That's
Shot.
where you can find all Florida State content.
Very, very nice, man. So, speaking of which, we'll transition into what we're talking about today. I know you're a Florida guy and you don't really have a team, just like me, St. Louis guy. Did you have any teams you were kind of rooting for heading into these playoffs or throughout these playoffs?
Not necessarily, but I will say that I was very impressed with the Knicks run. Conference finals was definitely something that I did not expect. And it's funny too because heading into the second round series against Boston, when they finally announced it, I picked Boston in five. I thought obviously with the Celtics being the defending champs, with them having that experience, then of course the dynamic duo of Jason Tatum alongside their supporting cast, whether it's Drew Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford. I know that Porzingis was in and out of the lineup, but he makes a big impact as well. Like when you look at everything that the Celtics had as a team, I felt like they definitely had the advantage. But the Knicks 100% proved me wrong. I mean, you talk about those first two games alone in that second round, like both of them were comebacks. First game went into overtime. Second game, they won by a point, and I got to give credit to this guy because he made big plays down the stretch. Mikal Bridges made two huge defensive plays. The first one, I believe, was on Jason Tatum down the stretch. The second one was on Jalen Brown. So the Knicks showed that fight and that hunger throughout the series, which is part of the reason why they won. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, if the Knicks could take down the defending champion Celtics, and I get it. I know that Jason Tatum ended up going down with the Achilles tear in Game 4, but I'm thinking to myself, like, if the Knicks can take down the reigning champs, I think the finals is a possibility. But I was also looking at the other side as well. I was looking at the Indiana Pacers, and I'm watching them throughout their first round matchup against Milwaukee, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how many people believe in them, but this is a team that can get to the conference finals again. I know a lot of people didn't believe in it last year. A lot of people consider last year's conference finals run a fluke. But I'm looking at this Indiana team, like they came into this year's playoffs a much better version of themselves compared to what they were last year. And they showed it against Milwaukee, being able to win that series in five. They took down the number one seed in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in five games as well, winning the first two games on the road as well, just like the Knicks did in the Celtics series. And the Pacers they're just dangerous. And I think obviously, I mean, everything starts with Tyrese Halliburton. I think like with the way that Tyrese Halliburton runs that show, like runs that engine in the offense, it allows everybody else to be better. Like you saw the best out of Pascal Siakam, you saw the best out of guys like Miles Turner, Andrew Nemhard. Like like it was a whole team experience with them, which is part of the reason why they came down as the Eastern Conference champs. And it's hard to defend the Pacers whenever they're playing at such a fast pace and they're getting down in transition. They're knocking down transition threes. They're pretty much like scoring from everywhere on the floor. And I think when you look back at that conference finals, honestly, that was something that New York just could not find a way to really figure out, honestly. So I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but if you wanted to tell me like a team that I was like kind of rooting for, I'll have to say New York because I will say after that Celtics series, I was thinking to myself like, man, like this is a team that really has a good chance to get into the finals, but they just came up short.
Yeah, for the Knicks, I would just say, like, for what I saw on the Twitter spaces is just, I would say just pump the brakes as far as any kind of I saw lots of overreactions go, like, like fire Tibbs, trade Cat, and I kind of say, and we're gonna get into it later on when we talk about some possible offseason stuff, is that I think you just try to incrementally get better now. You don't really try to make any big moves because I think, this is the biggest Knicks run since 1999. I think they outperformed in an Eastern Conference that was very, very surprising. The fact that the Celtics got knocked out, I think, is a positive overall for the Eastern Conference. And Nick, what do you think? If it was hypothetically, if it would have been the Celtics and Pacers in the conference finals, what do you think would have happened?
Honestly, with the way that Indiana played throughout the postseason, I think they would have found a way to win that one. I know that sounds crazy, especially. I mean, it's like I say, like the Celtics, they're a tremendous team. I know that they got bounced out in the second round this year, but they're still a tremendous team when fully healthy. But the Pacers just came like they had a different approach heading into this postseason, and you saw it even in the first round against Milwaukee. Like they just had a different hunger. They were more fluid in their offense. I'm not even just offensively, but just on both ends of the floor, and everybody was confident. Like everybody contributed to some form of fashion. Like I mean, hell, you look at even Game 6 against New York, like you're getting contributions from Thomas Bryant, who's coming in knocking down like a couple of threes in the corner. Like they were getting they were getting contributions from literally everybody. And I think just them showing how deep they were, I think that played a huge role in why they were able to win that series against New York, honestly. So if it was a Celtics Pacers conference finals once again, part two, the Celtics would have definitely showed some fight, but I honestly think Indiana would have came out on top in that one too.
I think so too. I think it would have been a bad matchup. Also considering not knowing what you get from Porzingis in that round. I know Zach Lowe talked about it. They need to figure out what they're gonna call this year's Pacers team because the Pacers play with so much pace. There's something there, like the not the pacing Pacers, but there's some kind of name to that. But I was watching the end of their closeout game. There was like 90 seconds left, and Halliburton is running down the floor. And I'm not superstitious, but we were around for Derrick Rose, and
Right.
like I'm just like, take them out of the game. But they can only it's like they can only play at one speed, and they were trying to bury that team. Uh,
They were.
so there might have been a little bit of like hatred towards the Knicks as well, but I'm just like, guys, like run the clock a little bit. You don't gotta be 7 seconds when you're up whatever 18 or whatever it was at that point. Um, you know what? You know what kind of surprised me, and I never knew this. So we know Rick Carlisle. We know all of his. One of the most winningest coaches in the NBA all time. Um,
100%.
he only has one coach of the year, which doesn't surprise me too much because you think like, Eric Spoelstra doesn't have any coaches of the year. But he only has one in his, and he's been a head coach 23 out of the last 24 years. And it was the first year that he was a head coach for Detroit. And it was a,
Really?
yeah, so I never knew that it was a 50-32 season. It was Detroit in whatever in 2001, 2002. Yeah, and not only that, I'm sure they mentioned it sometime on the broadcast. If not, they missed it. Um, Rick Carlisle is 83-83 heading into these NBA finals. And um I've been so impressed with him, because if you look at what the 2011 Mavericks were, this is not the 2011, this is like the opposite of the 2011
Totally different.
Mavericks team, which just goes to show, like, he's trying to find whoever is the best player and then build that team around him. So, yeah, Coach
Yeah.
Tibbs versus Coach Carlisle in the finals is just another part that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and back to Ray Carlisle as well. I think this year, especially with this Pacers team making the finals, I think it also shows how he's able to adapt to the way that basketball is played today. I think basketball is definitely a much higher, like a much faster pace. Honestly, obviously, the league is more talented than what it's ever been, and when you have such a young team, with Tyrese Halliburton, with the rest of these guys, like you're able to play at a different style and at a different pace, especially when you have such dangerous players. Like you can pretty much play five out, when you add on Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. So you can play them both inside and out. You can really put their versatility on full display when you play at that style and you have the point guard that you do have, honestly. So I give Rick Carlisle a lot of credit because it's like you mentioned. I mean, the 2011 Dallas team that won the title, like that's a completely different team. And I know that they were like just a little bit older. Obviously, you had Dirk, you had Jason Kidd, you had Tyson Chandler, Jason Terry, a couple other guys as well. Those are a little bit of like those. Like I mean, they were talented too, but like they were definitely a lot older than this Pacers team today. So I think now, like with this young Pacers team, I mean, especially with how young they are, like that's how they beat a lot of teams is with their fast pace and with their versatility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just been such a joy to watch overall. I've been hearing the criticisms, and it's like you just can't win, like if it's the same teams every year, people are mad. If it's a bunch of small market young teams, then people don't like that. People think it's boring. But like I don't see how you could think these playoffs have been boring at all.
Not at all.
The injuries have been awful, and I think this offseason, I'm gonna talk about, like, just different idea I think the league needs to change things to help that, and I think they can, but, yeah, the injuries have been the one unfortunate part about this postseason. Let's talk about, since you brought up Siakam, let's talk about him a little bit more. So Siakam for these this Eastern Conference Finals, excuse me, was 22 and a half points, 7.5 rebounds, 3.2 assists. Compared to Halliburton, 21.1 points per game, 5 rebounds, 11 assists. Um, biggest game for Siakam was game 2, 39 points. Had some really big games throughout. Had a big game 2, had a big game 4, had a big game 6, had a big closeout game. And I know the Eastern Conference MVP is only 4 years old, and 2 out of the 4 years, it's been kind of debatable, but what did you think about that decision overall? I mean, the broadcast was saying, it's gotta be Halliburton, but Siakam, I think we look at the stats and then we look at his most impactful games, it's not that surprising. So, what do you think?
Yeah, when you look at it from a numbers standpoint, Siakam played incredible. I mean, even beside the numbers, I thought he was really good, especially on both ends of the floor. I think his defense didn't really get discussed enough, honestly. So Pascal Siakam, especially with what he brings to the table, like this is exactly what Indiana wanted. When they traded for him last year, was you got a guy who's coming in with championship experience. Obviously, he won one in 2019 with Toronto. So you're bringing in that championship experience, to a young team who is on the rise. And I mean, Pascal's still a very young player in himself. So that definitely blends in. But if you ask me, I probably would have more so picked Halliburton to win the conference MVP award. And only reason why I picked Halliburton is because I just feel like without Halliburton's impact, without him being the floor leader, the floor general of that team, I don't think Indiana is as successful as what they were. And on top of that, he has some really monster games as well. Like, I mean, game 4, he had like 32, 15, I think 10 rebounds or something like
Yep.
that. So he had a very monster performance. And obviously, he had probably the biggest moment of the series was hitting that game time bucket in game 1 to force overtime after they were down 14 in the fourth quarter. So Halliburton to me, if you ask me, I feel like he was really the shining guy in Indiana, at least throughout these 6 games. But you got to give credit to Pascal Siakam too, because Pascal Siakam played incredible, not even just in this series, but throughout the entire playoffs, honestly. So, as far as them picking Siakam to win the MVP award, I'm not necessarily mad at it. It's not something that I'm going to argue about. But if I would have had a pick, I probably would have picked Halliburton.
Yeah, I think yeah, game 1, and then he hit that crazy three-pointer at the end
Game
of
6, yeah,
game 6, which just I think those are moments that when you're picking a regular season MVP, those are the moments that stand out to voters. So, I think if it's not the best player on a team, it should be then someone who is so much better in that series. Like, I think
agree.
we should have seen Siakam play way, way better than Halliburton in order to win that MVP, but that's just not how the postseason voting really works, I guess. Like we had Jalen Brown Finals MVP last season. Love Jalen Brown. Andre Iguodala 2015. We saw what he did in 2015, but we know that without Steph Curry, they're not in that situation. You got Tony Parker in 2007. Those are the ones that stand out to me when you look at playoff MVPs. Um, an idea. I'm stealing this from Bill Simmons. It's too good. I'm stealing it. Should conference finals MVP be changed to a playoff MVP? So it's not the conference finals, it's who plays the best throughout the first 3 rounds of your playoffs. It's an interesting idea, I think.
Yeah, I'm also with the idea of just going away with the MVP award, and then just sticking with Finals MVP. I mean, that's honestly something that I'm also good with as well. I mean, Conference Finals MVP is cool because I mean, obviously these are the last 2 teams standing in both conferences. Obviously, like they'll get the conference championship, but I'm also cool with them just letting them be like just removing the whole MVP award and just keeping it at Finals MVP.
Yeah, I understand why the league is doing it, and it's great that they want to highlight retired players, but uh, do do you know the names of any of these awards? I don't.
I
Uh,
think they're named after, Magic and Bird. I think Larry
mm,
Bird is the East and
East and
Magic is
matches the
the
West.
West,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe, yeah.
But then who's like the clutch player? Right? Like
That's
there's
true,
like
yeah.
there's so many others that I'm just so bad with names anyways. But I understand why they're doing it. We could do a whole pod series on decisions I don't agree with within the league. So well, we'll move ahead. Looking ahead towards these finals, of course, finals start on Thursday. Um, are Thunder just favorites overall and have been favorites throughout? Or is there something that I'm not seeing? Is it going to be competitive in your mind? What do you think about overall for these finals?
I think it has a chance to go 6. Both teams it'll be very interesting because both teams are very different in their way. I mean, we talked about how Indiana is plays at a very fast pace. They love the run and gun, and I think that puts a lot of defenses in shambles because they're not really too quick and to really set up their half court defense and really execute the way that they want to. And I think that we saw that in the conference finals when they went up against New York. I feel like New York was very lackadaisical defensively, and I felt like they didn't execute properly because it's hard to really stop the paces whenever they're literally beating you from all areas of the floor. Like, they can get downhill, they can attack, they can kick it out to open shooters. Like, you can have lineups where you can have all five players, space the floor and knock down perimeter shots. Or they could possibly cut, playing off ball, or they could slash, find their way to the rim. So it's like Indiana's just so versatile offensively. It's hard to really slow them down when you're in opposing team's defense. But OKC is going to make it competitive. I think OKC definitely has a big chance of winning this series. I'm actually going to pick them to win this series in six. They've been playing tremendous basketball throughout this entire postseason run. I think probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me was how they were able to overcome Denver in that second round series, and I think that was probably one of their biggest tests, honestly, because obviously Denver, they're the former champs, and I know that Denver went through some different circumstances now. Obviously, they fired Mike Malone right before the playoffs. Even like down the stretch of the series, Aaron Gordon was not 100%, especially down the stretch of the series. So I mean, obviously those can't play into effect, but I mean, you just watch how OKC was just able to overcome so much adversity in that series. They end up losing game one after being up double digits, then turn back around and pretty much obliterate Denver in game two. Go down 2-1 in game three, found a way to win game four, found a way to steal game five, and I think Jokic had like 44 in game five or something like that. Had a monster game.
Yeah.
End up losing game six, but then just not only beating Denver on your home floor game seven, but just obliterating them as well. Like I feel like that was the one series where I felt like that was going to be like the biggest test because there's been a lot of concerns for OKC, especially heading into this postseason. Like, obviously, they won 68 games on the season, but a lot of people still weren't necessarily believers because this is still a very young team. They don't really have a lot of experience as far as in the playoffs. I think the one person that probably has the most experience, if I want to say, is probably Alex Caruso, who won a championship with the Lakers back around 5 years ago. Um, I mean, that was really the biggest question, and I think like them being able to beat Denver, a team that has been to the championship before and won, I feel like that was a big thing for them, honestly. And then of course, them being able to beat Minnesota in 5 games in the conference finals. Honestly, I mean, they pretty much dominated pretty much damn near every game in that series outside of game three. So I think they're playing at a different level right now. I mean, obviously SGA, he's the one that runs that team as a whole. Obviously the MVP, and just watching him how he's able to find ways to score for himself, but then also facilitate to get everybody else involved. I think that's really good as well. Jalen Williams as well, being that second option for the team, but then also is really the supporting cast. Like you talk about Chet Holmgren, you talk about Isaiah Hardenstein, you talk about Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, like just how they've been able to get it done both on both ends of the floor, and particularly defensively. I think defensively OKC has really been at their best, honestly. And I think that with the way that they've been defending at a high level, especially in these last two series, I think that they could find a way to give Indiana some problems, honestly. Now, look, it's definitely going to be a challenge because Indiana is a very fast-paced offense and they do have a lot of versatility. But I think that's really what it's going to come down to is the battle of the defenses. Like who's going to get the most stops, who's going to really slow down both of their teams in a half court offense. So if you ask me, I'm picking OKC to win the series. I'm probably gonna pick them in six, but Indiana's definitely gonna make this a competitive series.
I'm going 6 also, but I'm not surprised if it's 7, and
I'm
this
not
is
either.
this is just this was the best case scenario for me. I mean, heading into the conference finals, I was like, "Man, we're gonna get no matter what, a young superstar is winning a ring, whether it's Brunson or Edwards or Halliburton or SGA." But the fact that we ended up with the 2 Midwest teams in the finals is phenomenal for me. And I wish we could give truth serum to the front office of OKC and ask them whether or not they think they expected to be in this spot at this point. Because I think if you've been paying attention to OKC, everyone that's been paying attention expected this to happen. They were going to build slowly, build around SGA, and create this lengthy, switchable team that is just what you want in modern NBA. What I did not expect is the fact that Hartenstein and Caruso were going to completely change the makeup of this team overall. And I think perhaps the most memorable moment, depending on what happens, but one of the most memorable moments of these playoffs is watching Caruso guard Jokic or contain,
Yeah.
whatever word you want to use for this. No one guards Jokic, I guess you could say. But the fact that you have so much front court depth. Not only do you have Chet Holmgren, you have Hardenstein, but then you got Jalen Williams coming off the bench for like 8 minutes a game. You got so many luxuries as far as depth goes. But then you just have a guard come in that's able to guard or able to, contain the best center, the best player in the league, period. So I did not expect that. I did not expect those two acquisitions to completely maybe speed up or change the timeline of this team because I knew they were going to get to this point, but I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that we're most likely going to be seeing the Thunder with a championship, and it's going to be this version of this team. And not only that, but everything else that everything else they have, the players that um it's really just makes their future interesting as well. Uh Speaking of which, and then we'll take a little break here. Um Thunder have probably the best problem and the best situation in the league, but it's still going to be a problem just like any other team because of this new CBA. So SGA just won MVP. He's going to be up for a huge extension in 2027. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren are on their last years of player options next season. They will both be up for rookie deals somewhere around 35 to 40 million. Uh, they have players like Case and Wallace who will have a second team option. I meant team option in 2026. Uh, Usman Dang, and then their picks situation, 15 firsts and 22 seconds between 2025 and 2031, mostly are unprotected or lightly protected, have some very key assets, including, for example, the Miami Heat's 2025 first round pick this offseason. So, potentially, anyways, your top 3 players in 2027 could potentially make 140 million. So, even if your second apron's at 230, which is not gonna be that high, I don't think, by 2027, that's still a lot of money wrapped up, and you can luckily retain your top players because of the rookie max extension, but it does give worry to the amount of depth because Thunder have been all about depth. You know, in the last series, they played 9 to 10 players, an average of 10 minutes or more for every game. So it's my long way of saying that, they're sooner than later gonna run into these issues. So,
Mhm.
oh, I don't have a good question for you, Nick. What do you think? Or do you think it's just a matter of, waiting for the finals outcome to see what happens this offseason?
I think that's probably what it's going to come down to is what is the outcome of what takes place in this finals. If they do win, then I can see everybody figuring it out as far as the financial situations and trying to run this team bad because obviously, I mean, this team is still very young and they have a lot of upside. Like this is a team that could potentially be a dynasty moving forward. I'm not going to put that label on them, but they have a chance to not only win this championship, but possibly win more championship for years to come. So when you look at it from a basketball standpoint, of course you're going to run it back, especially when you look at the great chemistry that they have with SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and the rest of the team. So I mean, if you ask me, I would love for them to all figure it out and run it back. But it's also, everybody's value is increasing. SGA just won an MVP. Jalen Williams is showing to be one of the best second options in the NBA, if not the best second option. So everybody's value is going up now, which is obviously going to mean more money, honestly. So I'm hoping that OKC will figure it out. Obviously, this will be a little bit of a hurdle that the front office is going to have to figure out. But like I said, I mean, depending on the outcome of this series alone, I think that will determine everything as far as what OKC's future would look like.
Yeah. So they certainly have the best problem in the league. What they do with all these picks without having a lot of money, I just don't know. I I really thought they were going to go for Cooper Flag. I really did.
That would
And
be
and
good.
perhaps that they would have if they weren't going to be a finals team this year. But I really thought they were going to angle for Cooper Flag and just have all of those contracts line up so that you could get him on a rookie contract when the rookie extensions for Jalen and Chet kick in. I I thought that's what they were trying to do, and I thought they had enough to do it, but who knows? Who knows if that would have been the case, if something else would have happened. Let's do some fun segments now. Let's talk about Giannis. All right, before I share my
Mm.
opinion, do you think Giannis gets traded this offseason? Do you think he asked for a trade? What do you think the Bucks front office does?
I think he'll ask for a trade. Now the question is, can they properly get it done this off season? I'm not 100% sure because I really want to know like what the destinations are as far as where he wants to go. Like I heard a little bit of Brooklyn, I heard a little bit of the Knicks, especially now since they just lost in the conference finals. Um, I don't know if those are the two actual destinations that Giannis wants, but here's the thing: like to me, especially with what Giannis has done for the organization, got their first championship since like 1975, 76, one of those years. Like just him alone, like what he was able to do in his decade plus with that organization. If he does say, "Hey, I've pretty much done all I can. I don't think the franchise is going anywhere. Obviously, I mean, we've lost in the first round the past 3 years. I think my time is up. I think I need to go elsewhere. I think if you're the Milwaukee Bucks front office, I think that you should definitely send Giannis to wherever he necessarily prefers. I don't know if it's New York, I don't know if it's in Brooklyn per se, but send him anywhere that he deserves. So that's why for me, like, I would not be surprised if sometime this month or even next month, Giannis comes out and says, or and requests a trade. But I do question if they can get it done effectively this offseason. I don't know if they'll get it done this offseason or if he may just get traded like in the middle of the next season.
Yeah. If I'm the Bucks front office and I'm kind of looking at what's going to be available, I'm saying I'm saying no way do I trade Giannis right now. But
Yeah.
if Giannis makes that request, I totally agree with you. That change. I think if the request is made, that changes everything. It's unfortunate that it's different than the Dame situation where Giannis did bring a championship to that team, and no matter what, there's gonna be fans mad about it if he does request a trade. But I think that championship even more so makes it so that you have to honor someone who is that loyal for that long and brought everything that was expected of them. But I just think, if you can wait, uh, some team's gonna pull the plug at the middle of the season and is gonna make a better offer. Because if you're sending Giannis out, you want young superstar, and you want assets, you want draft capital. And I think you're just in a much better situation if you're going to wait. So yeah, I think it all comes down to Giannis. I don't know where these like Giannis and the Raptors is that coming
I
from
heard
them?
about that. I heard a rumor too saying that that could be where Giannis and KD could potentially end up. I don't know how true that is, honestly. And I'll just be honest. I mean, as much as I love Kevin Durant, like I don't know if I'm putting that much into trading for him. I mean, and it's not because Kevin Durant can't play at a high level. It's just that would you get rid of like your young assets if you're Toronto for a guy like Kevin Durant at this stage in his career? I'm not 100% sure. I mean, like I said, it's not because he can't play at a high level because Kevin Durant showed that he can still play at a very high level, still one of the greatest scorers in the league today. But I don't know if I'm giving up my young assets for him.
I wouldn't, but if I was the Raptors, probably. I probably would. I probably would if I
I
was
guess
the
I guess it really depends on like the direction that they want to go. I mean,
yeah.
I think right now, like obviously the focal point is to build around Scotty Barnes, but how much belief are they putting in him right now? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I just don't know how much I believe all of that. Like I don't know if it's Giannis's connection with the Raptors front office is what is making that rumor because I'm like, Giannis, Siakam's gone, man. Like he's not there anymore. Like the you're anyways, but I don't know what is attracting him to that place. I mean, I think Toronto's cool, but for like what I imagine he would want right now, unless unless he is like coordinating something where another star is coming with him. But that just seems like what we talk about every off season. So it's hard for me to
Right.
tell what how much smoke is there. That's what I'm trying to say. I would like to give you a couple fun trade scenarios for Giannis, and just we'll just play off that. What about Giannis teaming up with Wimby? All right. So Spurs could offer second round pick this year, could offer Steph Castle, which I would not do, but he could. Devin Vassell, who I was amazed they were able to retain after getting Buddy Hield. Future picks, you could add in Harrison Barnes or other salary fillers along the way. That does mean Giannis goes to the West, which I don't want to see because, the East next season's not going to have Jason Tatum for at least part of the
Right.
year and, they're missing other players. But Spurs definitely have an offer there if they ever wanted to consider that situation.
Um, I like it. Not mad at it. I was honestly wondering. I thought the Spurs had some first rounders, but maybe they don't at the moment. But I definitely feel like Milwaukee would definitely ask for a lot of San Antonio's young assets, obviously outside of Wemby. Like I'm sure Stephon Castle is going to be in that conversation. Devin Vassell will. I don't know about even Jeremy Sohan. I mean, or actually, Jeremy Sohan might be safe. I think he might be safe in this scenario. But if you're Milwaukee, you're going to be asking for just about everything. And if you're the Spurs, the question is, are you willing to give up your young assets for a guy like Giannis? Now, obviously, I mean, Giannis is still playing at a very high level, and obviously, acquiring him will put you in a really good position to, build for a contender, whether it's this season or maybe next season or maybe in the next couple seasons. As we continue to see the development of Victor Wembanyama, but it is tough though because I feel like last year I thought Stephon Castle had a really good rookie season, honestly, especially when you're getting that mentorship from a high caliber point guard like Chris Paul, and even for a guy like Devin Vassell as well, who has shown tremendous growth as an all around scorer, and who is shown to be super valuable to the team as well. So, I mean that is the risk. Though. I mean, you're getting rid of a lot of your young guys that you've developed over the past couple of years, but if you are trying to build a contending team now or within the next couple years, then I mean, you definitely make that move.
You could potentially have 2 top 5 players on your team because
Mhm.
Wimby, depending on, you know, hopefully his health's fine. But if his health is fine,
Right.
he's potentially a top 5 player next year. I mean, the second half of his rookie season, I thought he was the best, defensive player just in the second half of his rookie season. All right. Next one, a little bit more serious. Houston Rockets. Um, Houston Rockets have gritty roster, budding stars. They have Ime Udoka. They have no state income tax. They can offer Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Shingun. I know, I know, I wouldn't do it, but it's Giannis.
I think Sengun might be off limits.
Yeah, it
I
might be
feel like
off
he would.
limits. I think I wouldn't put him up for anything really, but and then they also have
Milwaukee would definitely fight for him though. They definitely would.
and they have multiple first round picks. The only part I don't like is that um they need to improve their shooting. If especially if they want to get Giannis, they need to improve their shooting, and that's the only part I don't like about. But if I'm Giannis, I kind of like Houston. They got a good coach.
Houston's nice.
They got a fun, young, gritty team that like I don't want to see this. I don't want to face up against this team if they have Giannis. I didn't want to face up against this team last year with their defense. So, um, yeah. How about this one?
I like it too. It's like I said. I mean, I feel like Sengun will be off limits if you're Houston, but I'm sure Milwaukee will be fighting hard to possibly get him, especially when you're getting rid of a franchise player. You're gonna literally ask for everything. But when you talk about that combination of having a Sengun, having a Giannis Antetokounmpo, you still keep a hold of Jalen Green, who I know people feel a way about him. He can have his inconsistencies, but he shows that he could be a really great scorer. Whenever everything's going well for him. You still have a key veteran like Fred VanVleet. So, you do have to lose, some young asses. Like, I thought Jabari Smith Jr. was just slowly coming into his own, and a couple other guys as well. But if you're Houston, I think that this definitely elevates you, especially in a very tough Western Conference that features a lot of great teams. I mean, you got to think. I mean, you still got to go up against OKC next year. You still got to go up against Denver next year. The Warriors are still going to be a pretty good team. A couple other teams as well, like the Clippers, the Lakers. So the West is still going to be a very tough conference, and arguably teams are going to get stronger as well, heading into next season. So if you're the Houston Rockets, especially this team that just made the playoffs, they just like, especially as the second seed in the West, the question is how can you get better? And when you have a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo that's on the table that is available for a trade, you got to make that happen, honestly. So I'm not mad at it from that perspective.
Yeah, it's hard to say whether Giannis without Shingun would be as interested. It's hard to say, but yeah, seeing
Sure.
Shingun next to Giannis and seeing him be able to develop next to him would be amazing. I can't believe how good he is, Shingun. Just I
Yeah,
can't
it's
believe I
talented.
can't. Yeah, and I can't believe like people are still kind of like I like Jalen Green, but I think there's been like that sort of focus, and I feel like I can kind of gauge like how much people are actually kind of watching. Sometimes. All right, my other ones aren't too big. I had Atlanta. Atlanta they could offer Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Reese Shea. They had you could pair him with Trey Young. Miami Heat's always lurking. You got Pat Riley, but would you trade Bam to get him? I don't know. Not sure.
They
Um,
will definitely ask for more than Bam.
they would, of course.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I only mention it because the Pat Riley part. Like they're making a call if they find out he's available. Brooklyn Nets don't have the assets but have the picks. I don't I don't see Giannis wanting to go there. And my last one, um, Cleveland Cavaliers.
Ooh.
Yeah, Cleveland Cavaliers, but I don't see it happening unless they include Evan Mobley. So let's just say it's not gonna happen. I think it's what,
Yeah, if I'm Cleveland, I don't make that trade.
yeah,
This is my opinion.
yeah. Because if I'm Milwaukee, I'm not making the trade unless like Evan Mobley. That's who we're talking about. We can talk about everyone else, but let's start with that guy because that's who I'd want to return. I'd want the defensive player who's a lot younger, who could be a superstar on a team. Uh, the other ones were like, I along with talking about truth serum, I wonder if the Dallas Mavericks at all have any feelings about this, because I have a feeling that um the Lakers were saying Anthony Davis is your guy. You're not getting Giannis. I bet they were saying that to them. You're not getting Giannis for Luca.
I could see
And
that. Yeah,
I wonder if there's any thought about, oh, we could have possibly gotten Giannis for Luca. And well, anyways. So all right, so we're getting ready for the finals on Thursday, and we ended the conference finals. Last part I want to talk to you about. You got any feelings about NBA on TNT ending? Got any feelings about that?
yeah. It was a phenomenal run, man. I had to be in tune on Saturday. Like there was no way I could not be in tune on Saturday for the last ever game on TNT, and obviously the last ever showing of Ernie, Shaq, Charles, and Kenny on Inside the NBA. I mean, they've given us so many great memories. Very entertaining, bringing their own personalities to the game. Whether it's Shaq roasting Chuck for not having any rings, or them roasting Kenny for just being a role player on the Rockets. Ernie being the mediator at all times, always keeping his professionalism. They all brought a different dynamic to that show. And I think that, it definitely is the reason why they had such longevity. I mean, you got to think Ernie Johnson was part of the network since like the late 80s, I believe. And then Kenny Smith ended up joining like the late 90s, early 2000s. Same thing with Charles. Shaq ended up joining a little bit later. But just those four together, like that four-man group right there, is probably one of the best in the NBA, honestly, if you ask me, if not the best, honestly. I mean, I know that it's technically not the end because they're going to another network, but nothing can replace NBA on TNT, especially after what they've given us for the past so many decades.
Yeah, I'm hoping the transition just adds more just quality basketball talk, because I have so much care and nostalgia for that program. But it's fair to say that I haven't always appreciated some of the things they have put out into the media at all times.
I agree.
And with ESPN, I know we all don't like ESPN for multiple reasons, but they have a lot of NBA analysts on there that they could bring onto the show that would elevate the show even more. You're not going to be able to avoid Stephen A. Smith on that show. He's going to be on there. I know people are worried about it. He's going to be on there. But bring Chennai on there, bring the people on there who can actually talk and break down
Andre
basketball.
Carter as well.
Yeah,
Um, Richard Jefferson. I mean, they got some great guys over there.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, it's gonna be um, you know, the same show, different network. I think Christmas around or Thanksgiving is gonna be where it hits me, because they always decorate the sets for the holidays. I think because it hasn't totally hit me that it's going to be changing, and it's gonna look different. It's gonna feel a little bit different. I think that's the time where I'm going to realize it. Oh, end of an era. Yeah, end of an era. I hope they keep all the important people around for it.
I agree.
I really want to know what they do with this, because they're gonna have games on NBC, right? So,
Yeah,
I,
NBC. Yeah, because they're a part of Peacock. So
yeah,
yeah,
I know in the Olympics last year last year they were trying out Noah Eagle and Dwayne Wade. That was pretty fun. So I'm interested to see what kind of broadcast
and
teams they
also
put together.
remember, Michael Jordan will be joining this year too as an analyst. So that'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
so happy about that, because
Yeah,
like, I don't like to be parasocial. I worry about Michael Jordan. I do. Like, because he's such a private guy,
he
and
is.
like, sometimes and then sometimes I'm kinda like, is he doing okay? It's just nice to know that he's doing okay, and anytime we can get, basketball analysis from him, taking it. So,
100%, yeah.
I was amazed. Were you surprised by that announcement?
I was because I never thought MJ would even take a job like that maybe. Maybe he still wants to talk the game. Maybe he wants to get close by it again. Because it's like you said. MJ is so, private in a way. We saw him, especially when he was the owner of the Bobcats slash Hornets. So he would come to games from time to time. So he would make some appearances here and there, but we don't really get like a close deep dive into Michael Jordan and who he is. He's pretty much been like that since he retired in 2003. And obviously, living a private life is cool, but maybe he wants to make his way back to the TV again. So I'm excited about it. I think MJ with the way that he views the game, obviously with the way that he played back in his playing days, but like, just how he views the game and how he can really break down the game. I think that'd be really great to see on next season.
Yeah, but he just doesn't do media. Like, I think about, like,
Yeah.
Jordan, he'll do, like, 2 interviews a year, and one of them will
And he,
be
he hated interviews.
yeah, because, like, he'll do an interview for, like, Cigar Aficionado. Like, he'll do interviews for things that aren't related to basketball and then talk basketball on there. So, yeah, that's huge. I'm sure the offer was huge even though there's no amount of money that you could give him where it's probably gonna matter. So, uh,
Right.
yeah, amazing. I couldn't believe that at all. So, um, Nick kinda let the promos at the beginning, so we'll do it now. Where can people find you? Where can people listen to you? Whatever like that.
Yeah, first and foremost, appreciate you, my guy, for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking basketball with you. We definitely are gonna have to do this again. Third time's a charm. But make sure to follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Nick Andre ATR. Make sure to check out my show. I cover women's basketball. I do a podcast titled The Best Damn W Show. You can check out that show every Tuesday nights. We always dive into a lot of women's basketball and have a lot of fun there. And I also write for various platforms as well. I'm trying to get more back into the writing, especially with the NBA season coming to an end, and then of course, the WNBA season, really starting to pick up. So you'll be seeing a lot of articles coming from me as well. So as long as you follow me on social media, you'll see all my content and what I have going on.
Cool, man. Cool. And you got a most anticipated WNBA game coming up.
A few honestly. I know this weekend we have Chicago and Indiana. That's obviously going to be a fun one. Everybody's going to be anticipating that one. A couple other games as well. I know that the Aces play against the Minnesota Lynx next week, so a lot of fun games, man. WNBA season is really, really picking up, man. So I'm excited.
Is it a different feeling? It feels different this year. I don't know if it's
Um,
yeah.
I don't know. To me, it really feels the same, honestly.
Does
I don't really feel anything different. Obviously, you know, especially with the past couple of WNBA drafts, there's new talent that's coming into their own now. New names that are bursting onto the scene. Then, of course, the same names as well. So, I think I'm just really excited about like a lot of the younger players and how they're able to blossom, especially from last year's class 2024. When you talk about Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Rakia Jackson, Camila Cardoso, and just so many other great players. Like even though they're in their second year, I think they're all making an impact in some form or fashion in their own way. So I'm just excited about that, honestly.
yeah. Perhaps it's me thinking Paige Beckers. Perhaps it's just that.
Oh yeah, Paige. Yeah,
Uh,
Paige is a rookie this year. She's actually playing well. She's actually out with an injury, but she was playing really good basketball before she got hurt.
and and speaking of Dallas, what wasn't Dallas the one who just signed Megan McConnell? It, TJ McConnell's sister just got signed to the
I
WNBA.
believe it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't remember
Yeah, I
if
don't
it was
remember.
Dallas or Phoenix.
It might have been
I can't
Phoenix.
remember.
It might have been Phoenix also.
Might have been.
Uh, but I'm like, yeah. I always think, man, that's awesome. The odds of having two children in professional leagues like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was the Mystics, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure.
It
Some
might have been.
somebody leave me a comment, let me know. You can let us know. We are signing off. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with some more NBA talk. I hope everyone has a good week and a good week starting the NBA finals. We'll see what happens, and we will see you again next time.